Welcome to CIO Leadership Live Australia. I'm Kathy O'Sullivan, Editorial Director for Foundry's Enterprise and Channel Brands in Australia and New Zealand. On today's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Eglantine Etiemble, who is Group Technology Officer at PEXA. Eglantine was ranked number 3 in the 2023 CIO 50 Australia, and it's an absolute pleasure to have her on the podcast today. Bonjour, welcome.
Bonjour, Cathy. Thanks a lot for having me.
Great to catch up with you again. And look, to start us off today, I'd love to hear more about your career to date. How did you get your start in IT, and what have been some of your career milestones?
Thanks. It's interesting when you're asking this question. So many people come from a different background and that leads into technology. I'm definitely someone who saw the opportunities door opening at some point, but I had a background in business and finance, not in technology. But in my first role, actually, I was working in strategy consulting, and in that period, it was in the early 2000s, the telco boom in Europe, and we were building organizations from scratch. So I was there designing process and business cases, etc. But what I loved was partnering with the technology team on how to implement those business. And it had a very concrete nature to it, which I really, really enjoyed. So during one of those programs, I decided to join the technology team and moved on from there. And my second role was in a large Fortune 500 US organization, manufacturing organization. And I really saw it was still almost accidental at that time, where I was just following the trail. But in this one of my early role, I was having a leadership role into a large operating model program, where across Europe, across 12 different countries, we were rethinking again how the group was operating the process, but the culture as well. And that was another really fascinating insights of the power of technology, not only as an enabler, as I had seen in my previous role, but as bringing people together. I think what kept me really into it after that was a series of, world accelerating, and all of a sudden we had fantastic connection everywhere. We had devices that were allowing us to do much more sophisticated things and transform our business. And career-wise, at the time, I was for this US manufacturing at a regional CIO role, looking after Asia Pacific. And I decided to join Dulux Group as their group CIO as well. So Dulux Group, really home of a lot of well-known and loved Australian brands. Fantastic culture, fantastic product, but really fantastic sales and marketing team as well. How do you brand the product? How do you reach out the customer and consumer? But at the time, it was really analog, a very analog, sophisticated but analog approach. So it was my first experience into leading fully into the customer technology and digitalizing the customer technology, which was a fantastic experience, again, because it was grounded into the amazing Dulux Group culture, but because as well, it coincided at some point with the COVID crisis, where people were stuck at home, and for us, the ability to understand needs and have the right data, have the right e-commerce in place, but as well provided online service to help people run their own, home repair and repaint. And it was very powerful. So not only it was a lot of new technology for me, but it was a new type of impact on the community, which I loved. And naturally that drove me to my current role with PEXA. And that was more driven over what's next for me and how do a technology leader now lead into a technology organization. That was a bit of my ambition here. But I wanted something as well that had this component of community impact and innovation for good. And innovate for good is one of PEXA key values. So I naturally landed in this experience.
So would love to hear more about PEXA. So you've been group CTO there since 2022. Right. So tell us a bit more about the organization. I guess, you mentioned there some of its values. So tell us more about its purpose and what you and the team look after there.
Yeah. So PEXA is a really interesting organization, not necessarily well known by the public because it's a B2B business. We're working with bank, conveyancer, government, but it's a company that has been really revolutionizing the property transaction market in Australia. So pretty much 10 to 14 years ago, I think, based on a COAG, Council of Australian Government initiative. PEXA was born to solve the problem of how do you digitalize the e-conveyancing, so how you transfer property title with the settlement, financial settlement at the same time, etc. It sounds reasonably simple, but interestingly, it has a lot of complexity, and it's a problem that hadn't been solved anywhere in the world. So that's a problem that we've been solving at PEXA, and we have now more than 90% of any property transaction settled on our platform in 2024. So the exciting things are we are now growing this value proposition in new data products, but as well in international jurisdiction in UK, for instance. So within this, it's a ASX listed organization, but still reasonably small. We are 1,200 across Australia and UK right now. Technology is probably a bit more than a third of that, a bit more than 400 people. And we are looking after our different platform products, but we're looking after as well security and workplace technology.
So you touched on it there that you now reach 90% of property transactions. That's a huge achievement. But can you tell us a bit more about that digitization journey and, some of the key achievements that you and the team have made?
Yes. It's been such a fantastic journey. I'm more than happy to talk about that. So again, the ambition of the Australian government was to digitize this complex process across Australia, one single solution. We are almost there. We have now, in 2025, we have 6 jurisdictions out of 8. And as I was saying, more than 90% transaction that will be transacting through PEXA. We've probably been supporting over 3 trillion of Australian dollar transaction across our platform, 16 million of settlement of property in Australia. So pretty big impact on the market. And that is really translating into a very different experience for users of our platform. We can have come foster really a diversity of people who are now leveraging our tool, and they don't have to come physically into a land registry to settle, but they can do this from home. So that allows, again, a lot of people to continue to work with our platform. In terms of digitalization as well, we've been doing a lot of work on data. So one of the diversification angle we're having is new product data. So for us, sophistication and regulation management around data was critical. So it's really something that we've been improving dramatically over the past couple of years. Again, in terms of the PEXA digitalization journey, as I was saying, we are now penetrating the UK market, which is probably the market that has the worst property transaction experience in the world, one of the world. So really fascinating to see the impact we're starting to have right now on the remortgage process, refinancing process, but very soon on the settlement transaction process as well.
So it sounds like you work quite hand in glove with the business there. So how do you ensure those IT initiatives, that they align with those overall strategic goals and the mission of PEXA?
One of the chains we have, just really wanted to recognize this, it's still a reasonably small organization. I've had experience with much larger organization where it's, of course, a little bit, you need to rely more on processes. The first thing is the executive team is working very closely. We're spending a lot of time together, and we are working very closely on assessing what are the market opportunities and challenges ahead of us today, tomorrow, in 5 years. How do we need to think about it? So consequently, our strategy is really born collectively. We're not building the pieces together and trying to weave them back together. We're building our strategy together. We're building the set of strategic initiatives that are going to support it together. But we've implemented as well in the last year a quite sophisticated prioritization ongoing process throughout the year that allows us to be more agile in how we respond to market changes. And that process cuts across the whole organization, where any initiative will go into the funnel, and we will be reviewing it every month with the CEO of Australia, UK, the head of the different functions, and we will be able to readjust what we are doing. So in the end, again, it's a tech business. 99% of what we're doing is technology initiatives. So the portfolio is a tech portfolio, but it's a group portfolio. It's something that we keep alive and keep refreshing together. So that keeps us very honest. And that drives a lot of transparency as well in both of what we want to do, but what we're actually doing and how we are performing against it.
So what's your approach then when it comes to innovation within the technology team? I mean, how are you looking at implementing new technologies? I know there's a lot of noise around AI at the moment, but also other things that have emerged in the last decade or so, like IoT and automation. What's your approach there?
Yeah. So Again, imagine we're a tech business in a property market. So for us, innovation is absolutely critical. Fierce competition, very, very fast moving industry. So the ability for us to understand how technology can change the game is critical. And innovate for good is, as I was saying, one of our core value. It's really embedded in our reward mechanism, our evaluation system. So everybody knows what they're expected to do in that space. And I think it's an important foundation. The other thing is that I want to talk about is we have a very balanced approach when it comes to innovation. As you can imagine, the exchange part of our business, the exchange platform of our business is regulated and is actually now critical infrastructure for Australia. So typically we are trying to pay a lot of attention to where we innovate, what are the areas where we do not have confidential data, where that are not necessarily regulated, etc. So when we think about our pilots and innovation grounds, first of all, we are looking at the non-regulated, less risky area of our business. And the third part is, again, we're taking a very holistic approach. So when we're thinking about innovation, that was true for cloud, that's very true for AI right now. We're not thinking about what's the tech that we need to bring in. We're thinking about what is going to be the impact on our customer, on our team, what are the security framework, risk framework that they need to put in place, how do I manage training, how do I manage expectation. So if you're thinking now, like six years ago, when we were one of the first company in Australia to move fully to the cloud in partnership with AWS, this is really not only about the cloud migration, it's about ongoing training and certification, but it's about reskilling finance for FinOps, etc. We're taking a very similar holistic approach with AI right now.
So maybe more relevant to your previous roles, but how do you balance that then when, there's cutting edge technology coming in, but you also have to maintain a lot of legacy systems, legacy infrastructure? What's been your approach? Maybe in previous roles, not so much in this because you are more at the forefront of it, but how do you balance that need for maintaining those existing systems with looking at what's coming down the road?
Yeah, actually, you know what? It's still relevant at the speed of innovation. It's still relevant for PEXA today. The platform that we are operating on right now was kicked off 12 years ago. So 13 years ago. So again, it's technology that was built for robustness, not for modularity and integration. Definitely a challenge for us right now. The approach we are taking is with this part of the platform, with our API, Heritage API as well. We're not trying to rebuild it all. What we are trying to do is when we are building something new, we are building it for reuse. So we have an array of platforms that we're working in. When we are looking at a payment system or an identification system, we're making sure that it's going to be reused in the array of companies that we're having or in the different platforms we're having. So somehow we don't have to rebuild all of this from the scratch. We're just making sure that we're taking a modular approach, and this approach is reusable across our organization. Somehow the innovation drives as well the lift up of the rest of our business. But it's a very, very challenging balance for us. Now, regulation, innovation, cost effectiveness, or managing those whole platform. Again, I think our group prioritization process is really helpful with that because it helps us having a portfolio that is balanced. We have all the attention of the company in this prioritization process that allows us to make sure that we are very balanced in our initiatives.
So you also deal with a lot of sensitive data, payments, identity. What's your approach then when it comes to cybersecurity and ensuring that very sensitive data is kept private and secure?
Yeah, so definitely data privacy, cybersecurity, and resilience is the area on which we are never compromising. I was talking about 90% of all Australian transactions, but you need to understand the consequence of that. A lot of land registry now do not have a physical process, a paper-based process anymore. So if tomorrow we are down, we just cannot transact property in Australia, hence the fact that we are a critical infrastructure. So for us, the baseline is making sure that we're up to all the industry standards, SOC 2, ISO 27001. We're just making sure that we are relentlessly looking at what's the best in class, what are the standards we can adhere to, and that's our starting position. We're making sure as well that we are partnering with the best in class in different areas, whether it's in technology or into services. Again, it's a small organization, but anybody, even large organization today, you need to be partnering with people who are leading edge or bleeding edge into their different areas, especially with the rise of AI and quantum computing. I think what I love particularly with the way we're approaching it is Pexa. We have 3 layers. We have the technology layer, which I was describing, but we have the group layer, which is culture and processes. How do we respond to a cyber incident? What's the crisis management? And how is the exec team ready? How do we collectively own a cyber resilient structure, culture as well? But we are looking after the ecosystem as well. So we are partnering with the banks, the Langley Registry, the governments to run some tests and crisis tests, but we as well to work on process and protocol and industry standards or technology resilience across all of us. So if one party in the ecosystem is failing, how can the other pick it up? Which I think is quite innovating and definitely important.
So what do you look for then when you are engaging with technology partners? What does a good partnership look like to you and the team at Pexa?
Yeah. So how do we select? First of all, the question for me is always, how do we know that we need to partner with someone? And it's something that is critical for us, but it's not our core capability. Cyber being a fabulous example of one. We'll never be the best of cyber, and we shouldn't be. So really identifying what are those pockets of things that are really, really important, and we are not going to be the best at doing this. From there, what's important as well, Pexa is a very value-driven organization, so we need to ensure that on the long run, the value and the roadmaps are aligned. But when we're looking at that, we definitely look at teams that we aspire to look like or to be like. So if I think about AWS, one of our really strong partners, we are aspiring driving our cloud management, but our resilience management as well. And they're the best that you could in that area. Similarly, we've been doing a lot of work with ThoughtWorks, and their ways of working are always evolving and always cutting edge. So when we're thinking about our operating model, we're reusing a lot of the work that we've seen them doing. So we work with people, again, who we really aspire to be like and who are not afraid to challenge us. So typically another fantastic partner of us at the moment, Snowflake, he's really pushing our thinking into data sharing and data usage and data product and AI in data. So really getting the organization that can help us grow.
And then when it comes to your own team, Ben, how are you making sure that you are creating that environment that really makes your people feel like they're growing and thriving at work?
So it's something that we all talk about, but I think we are doing really well at Pexa right now. It's this connection to purpose and to strategy. So our purpose at Pexa is connecting people to places. And again, we've done tremendous progress in that space in Australia, now in UK. So really getting the team into what does that really mean for customers? What is the impact that you're really having on the market? What is the impact when things are down? So really getting very close to that purpose and keeping on making sure that we keep it aligned, but very close to the strategy as well. So understanding how your work is contributing to the group scorecard and the group impact. So this is something that we are talking about every month, every week in the different team. We're cascading that visibility. Self-actualization is a big one. So we've been investing a lot in career pathways and the Pexa Academy, but with our partner as well to make sure that our team continues to learn and evolve. Diversity and inclusion seems a very basic and foundation one, but again, making sure that independently from your background and from who you are, we can get the best out of you, and you can feel you can be yourself in the organization. I think people dramatically underestimate the impact, the untapped value that you cause when we don't have an inclusive organization. I think the last one for my team, which I personally really enjoy as well, is we have to work with moonshot and stretch goal and playing back with what would it mean if we were able to do this? So instead of saying, how can we improve this incrementally, we look back at things and say, what if Pexa could do this? And what would it take? And I think working on those moonshots is always, very, very fulfilling.
Indeed. And look, you mentioned there the importance of diversity in any organization. What do you think can be done to get more people from different backgrounds to consider IT as a career? Are there any kind of practical things that can be done to open up the doors to people who may not have considered IT previously?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I look at first of all some of the hygiene factor, but the EVP, the employee value proposition that we're running here, Apexa is a flexible first organization. So just making sure that again, people with different type of background, we know that particularly women, if we talk about gender diversity, are doing 2 to 10 times more unpaid work in the community. So what does that mean is we have less flexibility as women. So making sure that you have a lot of flexibility in your work, for instance, is the foundation. So making sure that those hygiene factors are there. What I'm particularly impressed with is getting the awareness, getting the spark very early. So going to schools and making sure that we are having a lot of conversation. You have programs like Go Girl, Go for IT that goes to school just to bring more girls into technology and shaping in year 9 or 10. How does that look like? So just getting this spark very early, I think is important. I think it's important to invest in reskilling. We have today a lot of people who have fantastic background outside of technology, and it's incredibly rich to bring that in. But we have to have those pathways that are not necessarily university and 3 years degrees. So, for instance, we are partnering with Holberton University right now, and we're taking 2 waves of graduates a year, and we get people who are in healthcare, in teaching, in the richness they bring to the equation is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. All that life that they bring and different perspectives, I'm sure adds so much. So then what advice would you give to someone who was aspiring to be a CIO?
Yeah. I think technology is absolutely critical. You need to know your area, but you need to get to know your business in detail. Just need to dive, spend time with the customer center, spend time on the store, in the aisle. Make sure that you need to deep dive into your business and that you understand the potential, the opportunity, the pain point, the real lived realities of the employee there. I think it's always a competitive advantage in technology to do that. I'd say as well, don't always ask for permission. Sometimes when you want to build, and I shouldn't say it too loud again in a regulated organization, but there are always pockets of innovation and you can always test things. It's much easier to demonstrate the value of something if you've been able to make it happen in real life. Inclusive team is critical. Too often we have teams that are very, very similar in IT. And the problem with that is you have a team that doesn't fully understand all aspects of the business, cannot relate to different aspects of your team. Is that if as a team leader, you have a team that is able to do that and you can demonstrate that, it's really going to reflect very positively on your potential as a broader leader. And I would say you need to have internal and external sponsors. You need to build your brand. You need to have people whom you're gonna go and share really what's the impact of the work you're doing, and again internally and externally, so that those champions can help you when an opportunity arises.
And finally, I know you've worked on an awful lot of things in the last couple of years at Apexa, but do you have any other exciting initiatives in the pipeline? What's important to you in the months ahead?
So probably one of my favorites is the work we're doing in the UK. Again, so we're continuing to accelerate the build of the platform over there. And we've been focusing on one big value proposition, but very soon we'll be tackling the biggest value proposition, the transaction exchange in UK, which will be there in 25. So that's going to be very, very exciting for the market over there and for us. And really the demonstration of the things we have been working on. There is a really interesting piece of work that is starting with AI, and we are looking at scale AI-empowered employee. What we're seeing right now on the market is that there's already a big distinction between employees that can master AIs and some others who cannot, and they're accessible to the job market. So we want to make sure that our team is self-actualizing, but we want to make sure that they're empowered to drive the array of initiatives that we are seeing potentially across the group. And finally, I know that it sounds a bit less sexy, but for me, cyber and resilience are always very exciting. We are looking at how can we recover always faster in a simpler way, and making sure that we are keeping this value proposition and the standards we're in today. Today we have 100% uptime in this platform, so just keep maintaining that and getting of innovative solution to keep it safe and secure is quite exciting.
Well, we wish you the best with the months ahead and look forward to seeing the fruits of your labor, especially the impact of it on the property market in the UK. Eglantine Etienne-Bol, Group CTO for PEXA. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks a lot, Katie.